If you put Hamilton and Schumacher against each other, who would win? That's exactly what the Williams team boss did, and his answer will surprise you. Lewis Hamilton makes bold F1 contract request with an ambitious wish list. And now that we know Hamilton isn't retiring, should Charles Leclerc expect a tougher life at Ferrari? All that and more in this video. You thought Charles Leclerc had the perfect setup at Ferrari, the #1 driver, the younger star, the man Ferrari would build around for years to come. But what if I told you, now that Lewis Hamilton isn't retiring, life inside Maranello could be about to get much harder for him? And here's the twist. This isn't speculation from the media. It's the prediction of none other than Juan Pablo Montoya, a man who's been there, fought against the best, and knows exactly what it takes to unsettle a teammate. Montoya believes Ferrari will slowly but surely shift towards Hamilton's preferences. And once that happens, Leclerc's comfort zone inside the cockpit could vanish overnight. Let's break down what's really going on. 2025 was supposed to be Hamilton's glorious debut in red, 7-time world champion, the global superstar bringing championship DNA back to the Scuderia. But the reality? No podium so far. A 42-point gap to Leclerc in the standings. Hungary marked a new low, knocked out in Q2 at a track where he's won 8 times, while Leclerc took Ferrari's first pole of the season. Frustration boiled over. Hamilton called himself useless and even said Ferrari should change driver. He hinted at things going on in the background that weren't right. Fans started whispering, is he about to retire? Social media lit up when he teased an August 8th announcement. Instead, it turned out to be a new product launch from Almave, his non-alcoholic spirit brand. No retirement, quite the opposite. He's doubling down. Montoya's read on the situation is sharp. Hamilton is throwing everything into beating Leclerc. He's putting in a huge effort, but the car still doesn't suit his style. Ferrari's engineers are starting to understand his needs, but the SF25 remains a tricky beast. Leclerc looks quick because he adapts well to the car's quirks. But Montoya warns, as soon as Ferrari tunes the car for Hamilton's style, Charles will feel the heat. And here's the kicker, Hamilton isn't just driving. During the 3-week gap between Silverstone and Spa, he held multiple meetings with senior Ferrari figures. He handed over detailed documents outlining structural changes he wants implemented, plus his request for the 2026 car. Leclerc insists he's not being frozen out. He says he has his own way of giving feedback and that he's involved in the process whenever he's in Maranello. But he's not creating documents. Hamilton is, and that's a powerful signal about who's shaping Ferrari's future direction. Why does this matter beyond the Ferrari garage? Because 2026 is coming, and it's the biggest rule reset in decades. We're talking smaller, lighter cars, engines with a 50-50 split between electrical power and sustainable biofuel. No DRS active aerodynamics, new narrower Pirelli tires, 25 millimeters less up front, 30 millimeters at the rear. Whoever nails the new regulations first will dominate the next era of Formula One. And if Hamilton's fingerprints are all over Ferrari's 2026 project, that could lock him in as the lead reference point for the next car's DNA, which would mean, in Montoya's words, a much tougher life for Leclerc. This isn't just about lap times, it's about influence. Right now, Leclerc is the points leader inside Ferrari. He's delivering the better results. But Hamilton is the most decorated driver in history, and the one Ferrari brought in to chase championships. Both men want to be the driver Ferrari listens to first. Both know that shaping the car to their style is the difference between winning and losing. Montoya's warning suggests that behind the smiles and polite quotes, there's a brewing tug-of-war for the team's technical soul. For Hamilton, this is about more than just beating Leclerc. It's about proving he can win with Ferrari, something no driver has done since 2007. It's about an 8th title that would put him alone at the top of F1 history. For Leclerc, this is about cementing his status as Ferrari's future, not just its present. He's been the face of the team since 2019. Losing that internal priority to a 40-year-old newcomer, that would be a blow to his long-term position. Here's the reality check. Leclerc isn't just going to roll over. He's still ahead in points. He's still the man who can pull out miracle laps in qualifying, and Ferrari isn't going to completely abandon his input. But if the engineers find a way to unlock Hamilton's comfort in the car, and he starts matching or beating Leclerc consistently, the political balance inside Maranello could shift fast. So the question is, are we about to see Ferrari's internal power tilt toward Lewis Hamilton, setting up a clash of styles and egos? Or will Charles Leclerc fight back and keep his throne in Maranello? You thought the debate over the greatest driver in Formula One history was impossible to settle, that Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton, both seven-time world champions, would forever be side by side in the conversation. But what if I told you, someone who worked directly with both of them, at the very heart of Mercedes, says Lewis Hamilton was more naturally skillful than Michael Schumacher? And here's the part that will make every Hamilton fan sit up. This isn't coming from a random pundit. It's from James Vowles, the current Williams team principal. But more importantly, the man who served as Mercedes' chief strategist during the era when both Schumacher and Hamilton drove for the team. He's seen the telemetry, he's watched them work in the garage, and he's absolutely certain Schumacher was a master of extracting everything from himself and the team. But Hamilton is the more naturally gifted driver. Let's dive into why Vowles believes this. He described Hamilton as having oodles of natural talent, the kind of instinct you can't teach. When Hamilton jumps into the car in FP1, he's like an octopus all over the wheel, adjusting every setting, exploring every possibility. And the story that really drives the point home happened in Brazil. The simulation said, hold seventh gear up the hill. Nico Rosberg, ever the precise operator, did exactly that within 2 laps. Hamilton? After 2 laps, he said, this doesn't feel right, dropped to 6th gear, and found a 1/10 of a second. It took Rosberg until the end of the session to see the data and realize Hamilton was right. That's the Hamilton difference. He uses data as a starting point, but his feel for the car goes beyond numbers. Vowles explained that in the early days, this often meant Lewis would push so hard into turn 1 that he'd overshoot, ruining the lap, but discovering the absolute braking limit. Back then, out of 20 laps, only 1 might be perfect. But from 2013 onwards, Hamilton matured. Now he completes every lap, still gathering that same deep understanding, but without wasting track time. Braking remains his greatest weapon, maximizing everything under deceleration, learning the car's limits instantly, then building the rhythm from there. And yes, this aggressive exploration had its downsides. Hamilton could change the car so rapidly, altering mechanical balance, aero balance, countless steering wheel settings, that the engineers sometimes felt lost. The track is evolving, the grip is changing, and Lewis has already transformed the car. When he returns to the garage, the team has to reset everything. But here's the thing, most drivers can't afford to spend a whole session on the wrong setup just to learn. Hamilton can. He can throw away a morning, gather the data, and then, boom, switch back to a known configuration and immediately be on the money. This isn't just a fun piece of trivia. It's a window into why Hamilton has been able to dominate multiple eras of Formula One, from V8s to V6 hybrids, from no halo cars to modern safety-heavy chassis, from narrow tires to wide ones. Hamilton adapts, not just with his mind, but with an instinctive connection to the car's behavior. It's the kind of skill that translates into championship resilience. Even when the car isn't the best, Hamilton's ability to extract that extra 1/10, to innovate in real time, keeps him in the fight. Of course, comparing Hamilton to Schumacher is dangerous territory. For many, Schumacher's relentless work ethic and team-building mastery make him the GOAT. For others, Hamilton's blend of raw skill and adaptability tips the scales. Vowles' comments poke right at that rivalry. They don't diminish Schumacher's greatness, they highlight a philosophical difference. Schumacher was the ultimate executor of a plan. Hamilton is the ultimate improviser when the plan isn't enough. For Hamilton, this isn't just about numbers on a scoreboard. It's about redefining what greatness looks like. He's already tied with Schumacher on titles. He surpassed him in poles, podiums, and points finishes. But now from someone who's seen both legends up close comes validation of a different kind. That Lewis Hamilton's natural driving talent might be the purest the sport has ever seen. This is the kind of statement that fuels a legacy beyond statistics. It paints Hamilton as the driver who could have thrived in any era, with any machinery, against any opponent. But let's be real. Pure skill doesn't guarantee every win. Formula One is still a team sport. The best driver in the world can be stuck in midfield if the car isn't up to scratch. And Hamilton's gift for constant experimentation can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes it leads to magic. Sometimes it leads to sessions where he's out of position. The question is whether that same adaptability will keep him competitive deep into his 40s, especially against a grid stacked with young, aggressive talent. So here's the question. If even the people who've worked with both say Hamilton's skill surpasses Schumacher's, are we ready to crown him as the greatest? Or does Schumacher's era, his team-building dominance, still hold the edge in the GOAT debate? You thought Lewis Hamilton's biggest moves happened on the track, that his influence began when the lights went out and ended when the checkered flag dropped. But what if I told you Hamilton's latest play isn't about lap times or pole positions? It's about rewriting the rulebook of Formula One itself. And here's the twist that could change everything. The most successful active driver in the sport, a 7-time world champion, is using his voice, his status, and his platform not just to win races, but to fight for a complete transformation of how contracts, salaries, and opportunities work in Formula One. Just like legends of the past, Niki Lauda fighting for safety, Jackie Stewart campaigning for better driver protection, Hamilton wants to lead a movement that reshapes the sport for everyone in the paddock. It started with an interview during the Belgian Grand Prix weekend with Belgian outlet RTBF. Asked about his legacy, Hamilton could have gone the easy route, talk about records, titles, and statistics. Instead, he dismissed the idea that legacy is about being remembered as the best. There have been so many great drivers. Every era has always had its number one, he said. Today, I think differently. What I focus on is what I can contribute concretely. And then came the part that made the paddock take notice. Hamilton spoke openly about the flaws in the current Formula One contract system. Drivers are bound by contracts that prevent them from talking to other teams. They can't even talk to other teams, he revealed. It's not just about driver freedom, it's about fairness across the sport. F1 revenues have exploded, from £700 million to over £3 billion. But Hamilton points out that many salaries across the paddock have not kept up with that growth. Mechanics, engineers, and countless crew members aren't feeling the same financial boom. And his wish list goes beyond money. He's calling for structural change, more diversity in the paddock, a sport that truly represents the world it races in. Better environmental responsibility, upcycling, proper recycling systems, and working with food banks so that the massive amounts of food wasted on race weekends actually go to people in need. More access and opportunities for underrepresented communities. If Hamilton succeeds, this isn't just a contract reform, it's a cultural shift. We're talking about opening doors for future generations of drivers, engineers, mechanics, and even journalists who might never have imagined themselves in Formula One. It could mean young talent from places that F1 has never seriously scouted getting a fair shot. It could mean sustainability being taken as seriously as lap time improvements. And it could force the biggest teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, to rethink not just car upgrades, but people upgrades. But here's the tension. For every fan or insider who sees Hamilton's mission as noble, there are critics. Some tell him, shut up and drive. They see activism as a distraction from his racing. Others in the paddock are wary of loosening contract restrictions. After all, secrecy and exclusivity are part of F1's power game. And then there's Ferrari. Hamilton is still adapting to life in red, fighting to get the results he wants on track, while pushing an agenda that could make some powerful figures uncomfortable. But maybe this is Hamilton's legacy. Not just the man who equaled Schumacher's 7 titles, not just the driver with more poles and podiums than anyone else, but the champion who used his influence to leave the sport better than he found it. Think about it. In the 1970s, Jackie Stewart made safety the hill he would die on and saved countless lives. In the 2000s and 20s, Hamilton might make fairness, access, and responsibility the new pillars of Formula One. He's not just chasing a checkered flag, he's trying to wave a new one. Of course, it's not guaranteed. Formula One is a billion-pound machine, resistant to change when profits are high. Team bosses might resist loosening contract clauses that give them control. Sponsors might not see the immediate ROI in diversity programs or food waste reform. And there's the personal cost. Hamilton has to balance these off-track battles with the very real fight to get Ferrari back to winning ways. So here's the question. If Lewis Hamilton can pull this off, if he can change the rules, redistribute opportunities, and set a new standard for how Formula One treats its people, would that make him the most influential driver in the sport's history? More than his titles, more than his poles, more than any win?